I'm Julie Fei-Fan Balzer, and whatever the season, leaves are always a source of ideas. And in fact, I have brought these leaf luminaries, and you can see you can use all kinds of leaves, and basically it's a piece of colored acetate inside that gives it a little something extra. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm gonna do is on my electronic cutter, I'm gonna go ahead and pull up my cut file for the actual basic luminary. So it just looks like a bunch of squares. Then what I want to do is I want to add in my leaves. Now you can actually scan a real leaf from your life, or you can just grab one from the built-in designs. So if you wanted to go with something, oh, I like this one right here. It's an oak leaf, I think, or at least it looks like it. For the first time in my life, I actually have a backyard, and it's been really exciting just to see all the different leaves. Now, I know that I want 4 of them, but I'm not sure if the size is right. So instead of choosing to have 4 right at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and just set the 1 and see if it fits. Now, I'm getting an error message, but I have a hack so that you can fix this. So even though you have the error message, you're gonna go ahead and go back, retrieve that same file that we retrieved before, and what you're gonna do is you're simply going to move one of the luminaries on top of the other. Now, when you go ahead and add your pattern, and I wanted to show you that because this is something that happens to me all the time. So now it's very easy for me to go ahead and set that. You can see the leaf right there. So I can move the second luminary back in place, and I can grab this leaf, and I'm trying to see if it fits properly in here. It's a little bit big, so I'm glad I waited. So I'm gonna go into the built-in editing functions, and I'm just gonna make it a little bit smaller. And once it looks like it's the right size to fit right inside here, then I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add my 4. So 2, 3, 4. There they are. And I can just place them on each side. Now, just because one of them is facing up doesn't mean they all have to face up. You can certainly rotate them. So like that one's facing down. It's totally up to you. You could even put it at an angle. It is the nice thing about making your own decor like these luminaries is that you can absolutely decide what you want. But once you have the basic setup, you're gonna say, okay, and you're gonna go ahead and hit that cut screen where you're gonna choose cut. Now, I have a piece of regular old cardstock, but you could cut this out of acetate, some sort of fancy like watercolor paper, whatever you really wanted. And I'm gonna carefully adhere my cardstock onto my sticky mat. I like to use the brayer tool to make sure that it's really well adhered. I think the key to good cutting whenever you're working with an electronic cutter is making sure that your material is secure to the mat. So once that's on, I want to make sure that nothing's stuck to the back. Sometimes these mats have static cling and you got to just double check. Then I'm going to load the mat into the machine, just like so. And I can go ahead once I see the cut screen and I can just press start. Now, once this is off and going, I would actually wait for it to stop cutting, but we're gonna go ahead to the next step. So I'm working on a clear film that is meant for wet media. That's really important. And I can draw on it, if you can call this drawing. I'm actually using a China marker or a grease pencil. It goes by lots of names, but you can use lots of other stuff, and you can draw patterns, or you can do random shapes, whatever you want. I'm also gonna work with some watercolor. And again, I remember I said you wanted a clear film that would accept wet media. So I can just go ahead and scribble my paint into the wet media. I can mix up some colors. I can just have a lot of fun. You could also use acrylic paint. You can mix acrylic and watercolor. I mean, when they say mixed media art, I say, let's mix it up. You could use crayons, colored pencils. The idea is you just want to get color. Now, the reason that I'm really using watercolor instead of acrylic is because acrylic tends to be opaque, and I want that translucent quality. So I'm just continuing to mix up my colors. Again, you can make patterns or not. You get to choose how dense. Now you'll notice I'm working on 2 pieces at the same time. I could have easily only brought 1 piece of plastic with me to play with, so why am I working on 2? I think sometimes what happens when you work on 1 piece is you get very attached to it, and you want to keep this loose and easy and not get attached to feeling like it has to be a certain way, because I think this really looks best when the marks are random. And if you don't like these sort of loose strokes, you can get quite detailed doing little patterns like this. You can see right there, so that you can actually get some very nice clear marks. And remember, this is watercolor on top of acetate. You notice I don't really clean my brush that often, and I try to just keep things loose and easy. And patterning is not hard. Patterning should be easy. A circle, that's an easy pattern, right? And if it's wet and it runs, that's awesome, because this is never gonna be a big full sheet. It's always gonna be a little piece. So I'm just gonna continue around decorating and decorating. And once I finish decorating the sheets, what I end up getting is some beautiful, colorful sheets of acetate that look like this. And you can see how dense these are. Now, I'm gonna pull these up in a second because I wanna be able to show you the difference. But before I do, I wanna tell you that this one has acrylic paint and this one does not, okay? So hopefully you're gonna be able to see the difference when I hold them up. This one is much less see-through, and this one is much more see-through. And you can see that the side that I painted on is much less shiny than the side that I didn't paint on. So I like to have the side that I didn't paint on be the side that is out. And you can see I have some smaller pieces here that are already cut out. But let me move this whole wet mat aside for a second, and let's go ahead and grab what we cut. So I have 1 shape, and I have my 2nd shape. And don't worry, this basic cut file will be available for you on the Make It Artsy website. So this has perforations built in. That means I can just fold everywhere that I see a perforation line. I don't need a bone folder, I don't need a special tool. It just folds really easily for me. And I can do that to both pieces so that I have all of my fold lines in here. Okay, so the next thing I know that I need is I need a piece of the colorful acetate to go in here. But I actually like, let me move this out of the way so you can see a little more clearly. I actually like to put this together as a string of 4 before I do that. So I'm gonna go ahead and take some adhesive and just run it right along this ridge. Then I'm going to adhere it by basically placing this on top here. And the reason I'm doing that instead of doing it in a straight line is because this needs to be a box that folds. So I need to make sure that it's adhered in a way that it can fold and create that kind of seam. So once that's done, then I look at the inside and I want to place my acetate pieces. Now if these are too small, which I suspect they might be, tiny bit unless I put it on an angle, I have a cutting mat here and I'm just going to go ahead now and trim it down a little bit. So I'm going to trim it right there. You could also use scissors, but I like the convenience sometimes of using a cutting mat and a craft knife. So now I can see that this is gonna fit in here perfectly, because what it looks like on the inside doesn't matter at all. So I just wanna go ahead, and again, the shiny side is up. I'm gonna put adhesive all around this kind of cool diamond shape. And this is a great way also to use leftover scraps that you might have. So I'm gonna drop that in, just like that. And I'm gonna continue that process with all of these pieces. So it looks like they're all gonna need a little bit of a haircut here, and that's fine. makes it quick and easy. Oops. And then I have lots of little extra pieces left over. So I'm gonna take my time to do all those, just like so. You can see it just like that. And if I hold this up, I hope you can see how cool that is, that there's already light coming through these little openings. So once I finish putting all the pieces in, then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some adhesive, run it right down here. And again, I'm going to do this with this folded, bring it over, and I have a little box. But no luminary is complete. I guess this is the pretty side that you want to see out. No luminary is complete without a lid. So I also have a lid file, which I've used my electronic cutter to cut. And it's the same deal. There are perforation lines all around. And I'm going to go ahead and fold in all of those perforation lines. And it has these little tabs. And the little tabs are going to adhere inside to make the little lid. And then you can just use a battery-operated LED candle in there. And if we look at some of the finished ones, you can see how easy this is. With the little lid, it comes right off so that you can see in if you want to, or you could adhere it permanently because you could always lift it up to put the little candles inside. But this is something that you could use to decorate inside your home, outside your home. And again, it's so personal to you because it's your patterning, it's your styling, and it's even maybe a leaf from your own backyard. So I hope you'll take a whole new look at your backyard and feel inspired by what you see every day to be something brand new.